So many products at CES this year, but one of the ones that caught my attention was from a company called UltraHuman. And I'm pleased to be joined by Mohit Kumar, the founder and CEO of UltraHuman. Thank you for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm excited to be here. Thank you, Mark.
I'm excited to have you here. I want to talk about, of course, your product. I want to talk about smart rings in general. Before we dive into like all the details, can you start by telling the audience what the UltraHuman smart rings are and what makes them stand out in this market that is, I guess some would argue, is a little bit crowded when it comes to wearables?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it is quite crowded when it comes to the market, like in terms of wearables and different form factors. But UltraHuman is actually a human performance science company than actually a smart ring company. So we actually believe in the fact that you could have any form factor to collect data. And this basically the form factor of data collection could give you access to data from the human body, and then that data is what really matters. Um, what UltraHuman platform actually does is essentially takes the data from your body to the smart ring form factor and converts that into actionable insights. And essentially, the ring form factor is really interesting because it's very sleep compatible. So, as you would notice, versus wearing a watch. And we believe that sleep is such a gold mine of performance data, right? Because of two major reasons. One is there's no real noise during sleep. So essentially, you can really isolate what the true state of the human body is when someone is sleeping. So if there's any change, you could actually identify what changed and what made that parameter change. Like for example, resting heart rate changed. You could really isolate the resting heart rate and really figure out what really happened. And the other reason is that it's just such a comfortable form factor. Where UltraHuman stands out is that we have something called Ring Air, which is the lightest smart ring in the world. It's also the most comfortable smart ring in the world. So once you wear the Ring Air, it just actually feels like air. So it doesn't feel like a smart ring or any gadget at all. It just feels like a natural form factor which will just sit on your finger without you noticing it.
And one of the other, models as well uses luxury materials, right? Like 18 karat gold and platinum, which also sets it apart. But, I want to talk about the data science and the health science element of this. How important is it? Are we over obsessed with information about ourselves? Is it getting a little bit excess, or are we just scraping the surface of how we can use and take action on the information that we collect about ourselves?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both excess at the same time, along with not knowing at all about the human body. I think there is this massive transformation that's happening in the health space where, 5, 6 years ago, all that you would know about wearables and the output of wearables would be steps. And your steps and maybe some heart rate data, right? And we've seen this evolution in the last 5 years where people have started talking more about their HRV, their resting heart rate, their movement, not just the volume, but also intensity and also the frequency of movement, etc. Right? So there's a lot of new data coming in, and it's very natural to be overwhelmed with it. And there's a lot of simplification that needs to happen in this space. Like basically, imagine, right, this technology did not exist a few years ago, and then suddenly there is this new stream of data from the body. Now we have to actually apply a layer on top of it so that it's easier for people. At the same time, most of the fitness space is actually doesn't really have enough data. Like especially if you pick any domain, right? If you pick nutrition, every supermarket you go to, every lane would actually tell you that every lane of supermarket has products tagged as healthy, but then the best guess would be that maybe 20% of them are actually good for you versus 80% of them are just marketed as healthy. Similarly, in the supplement space, similarly in the workout space, right? So everything is just basically marketed to you as more is better, but then what's really good for you depends a lot on your bodies. Data from your body really helps you make that decision. Um, so I think it's a little bit between there's a lot of data, it's overwhelming, but how do we make sense of this data? How do we create layers to help people understand this? And at the same time, how do we make more people subscribe to this data? Because data will give you anxiety, but then without data, I mean, um, you don't really know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
So some anxiety is good for change.
Within the products and of course the data that you collect, you have a big focus on metabolic health. And that's pretty unique, and that's a bit different than what other people are doing in the space. Why is that so important to you? How does that impact our overall wellness?
The metabolic system, especially the glucose metabolism system, right, essentially, is a really fascinating part of human physiology because it is the part of your system that changes not just in response to food, which is quite natural. Like if you eat, let's say, sugary food, and essentially it'll give you a glucose spike, which is quite natural. Like there's nothing wrong about it. It reacts to food. It reacts to the kind of food and the timing of food, but it also reacts to your sleep cycle. It also reacts to your stress. We have seen people who are stuck in a traffic jam and their glucose would just spike because of stress. And what we've also seen is that uh, glucose, which is essentially trying to mimic insulin in the human body, is a phenomenal marker when it comes to prediction of cardiometabolic diseases, which are
Hmm.
the leading indicators of like a chronic disease risk in the human body. And chronic diseases, obviously, like are the leading killers in the like in the human world, right? Essentially, most people die because of a chronic disease caused by something that is linked to a cardiometabolic reason. So, given the fact that this is just such a simple marker, such a straightforward, simple marker that is affected by almost everything that you do, it's super sensitive. Like, basically, if I just have a 30-minute stressful conversation with someone, my glucose might rise. Dehydration causes glucose spike, bad food causes glucose spike. Essentially, your stress will cause glucose spike. So, it could open up a lot of information about how the body actually functions, and that's why we have been trying to look at the human performance system from a metabolic perspective because um, it is truly an energy system in many ways, right? The energy storage and retrieval system. So no matter how what your BMI is or your body composition is, all those things do matter. But then at the same time, if you're unable to store and retrieve energy in the right way, it will lead to chronic diseases, and that's what we want.
Yeah. There's a growing debate out there about the accuracy of the data collected from wearables. How do you guys at UltraHuman ensure that the data and the metrics are scientifically reliable? Like, what would you tell skeptics who don't trust what we're recording off this stuff?
I think I think the skeptics are right when they say that the data from most wearables are not, you can say, medical grade or like 99.9% reliable. Actually, I wouldn't say reliable, but you can say 99.9% accurate. But I think that statement might be true, but the context is totally wrong because which devices actually have the most accurate amount of data? Medical devices, um, devices with clunky form factor because they're designed to capture highly accurate data, but they're not designed to be worn 24/7, right?
Yeah.
So with a wearable device, there's always a trade-off and a form in the form factor, which is the smart ring or the health tracking ring can be worn 24/7, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Um, and that comes with a little bit of accuracy trade-off. And a medical device, let's say a strap, a chest strap, right?
Yeah.
Super accurate, but you can't really wear it 24/7. So that's a trade-off that we're playing with. And interestingly, most of the things that you want to change in your life don't really depend on that 1% of change or 2% of accuracy difference. They actually depend a lot more on the direction of change, which is your resting heart rate going up? Is your HRV going down? Is your temperature off? I think the trade-off is real, and I think it's really interesting that um, what really matters is the directionality of how these markers are moving, not really the absolute values. And actually, that's the fun part. That's the good part, right? Because you don't really need to have 99.9%, 100% accurate markers. You could have a 97% accurate system, which most wearables are able to get to, and still get the right kind of actionables and insights.
Because of the materials and because of what makes UltraHumans ring smart, stand out a little bit. When we talk about luxury in tech in the space, people often say that it's more form than function. How do you ensure that we're not just looking at this as another status symbol, but it actually truly delivers on the health promises that come with it?
Sure. So what we're trying to do is essentially make health tracking as natural as possible. And when people live naturally, as in like they want to go by their life, they would want to engage in, let's say, basically going out and wearing their favorite attire. They would want to look good. They would want to look different. They would want to uh, wear something that's comfortable but also fashionable, right? So, what we have seen is that if you're designing the product because those are your constraints and expecting user to change, the problem is that users would change but only for some section of their life, and for continuous tracking that's not really good. What we really want is how do you become like everyday companion. Like if you want to go out and party with your friends, we would want to measure what is the impact of that party um, on your life, and you can choose to do nothing about it. But it's good to know. It's good to
Yeah.
know, like how you're responding to, like basically a stimulating event. So all those things are the reasons why we want to make the product more aesthetic, more natural, and give people the option to look good along with the product.
Makes complete sense. What's the availability of the smart ring? Is it in the market now? Can people order it today? And what's your plan for 3, 4, 5 years down the road?
If it comes to Ring Air, the flagship product, that's available across 2,200 stores in the world right now. We're available across Walmart, Costco, Best Buy in the US, and we do. We've also basically made ourselves available to a lot of cycling retailers and stores in Europe and other geographies. And I think the focus is really to work with partners who can introduce new technology to people in the most effective manner. They can represent the brand the right way, essentially the ethos of the brand and what we're trying to build here. And that's why we are available across like now almost 2,200 stores. Most of them actually got added the last year and the year before. And people can also order online. Like they can go to ultrahuman.com and just place an order. Um, they can also go to Amazon and place an order. So I think we are
Everywhere.
probably the most available smart ring or health tracking ring in the world right now.
Before I let you go, Mohit, I want to ask you just a kind of a personal anecdote. Is there any story that you can think of, or any customer that's written in that's gotten in touch that found something out about themselves that they didn't know before that really changed their lives? Or is there a metric or something that you can think of that when you were in this development process and put this out to the market that you were kind of taken aback or shocked at, or even just, wow, I can't believe it did this? Is there any stories that you can think of like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, there are two I could talk about. The first one is actually something that regularly happens, and it actually happened to one of our team members. This is someone in their early 20s who actually got an AFib alert on the platform. And they went to a doctor, got themselves checked, and it was actually a blockage.
Wow.
And that could have been something that would have been quite dangerous to ignore. And so that person actually obviously like went for a full-on ECG and then did a full-on scan and then basically figured out that there are interventions to be made. And this is someone in their early 20s.
Wow.
There was zero chance that they would have actually even thought about doing an ECG proactively. There were no symptoms, but that's the thing about cardiovascular events. Like most of the heart attacks are actually silent. So that would be one. The other one is actually someone saw that I think one of our users um, posted on social media that the metrics suddenly turned like weird over the last 1 week, and we were trying to debug and help them understand like what's really happening, and we couldn't really figure it out ourselves as well. And it turns out um, they just got pregnant. So essentially, like this lady just got like pregnant, and essentially uh, the fact that the system was so sensitive to understand such a biological change in such a sensitive way,
Yeah.
I think was pretty interesting for us. Yeah.
Amazing. Mohit, thank you so much for taking the time to join me. Obviously, congratulations on all the success. I'm gonna play with the ring for a while now, and give people my feedback as well. But come back and talk to us again. I appreciate your time.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mark.